Hello, everyone. Welcome to the theory class. Today, we're going to be covering lesson 36. And before we begin, let's go ahead and do our evaluation. All right, here we go. Ready? Number 1, ourselves. We will do it ourselves. Number 2, zebra. We saw the zebra. Number 3, between. Go between the lines. Number 4, whether. I need to know whether or not you will go. Number 5, shelf. Put it on the shelf. Number 6, request. Did you request time off? Number 7, accomplish. Did you accomplish the task? Number 8, zinc. Put zinc on your face. Number 9, afternoon. Good afternoon. Number 10, zest. He has a zest for life. Number 11, machine. Did you write on your machine today? Number 12, myself. I will do it myself. Number 13, sip. Take a sip of the tea. Number 14, remit. Remit your slip. And number 15, golf. Let's go play some golf. All right, let's look at those. Take a look at those on the board. Number 1, ourselves. That's going to be O-U-R. Come back for S-E-F-L. Come back for final Z. Number 2, zebra. S-D for the initial Z. Long E-B. Come back for R-A. Number 3, between. T-W-E-N. And that's a short E. So it doesn't conflict with tween. She is a tween. Number 4, weather. W-H-R on the initial side. Number 5, shelf. S-H-E-F-L. Number 6, request. K-W on the initial side. Number 7, accomplish. P-L-I-S-H. Number 8, zinc. Initial Z with the flag. I-N-K. We have to flag it so it doesn't look like an N-G word, but an N-K word. Number 9, afternoon. A-F-R-N. Number 10, zest. Initial Z-E-F-T. Number 11, machine. Initial M, final N. Number 12, myself. M-I. Come back for S-E-F-L. Then we have sip. Initial S-I-P. Number 14 is remit, R-E-M-T. And number 15 is golf, initial G-O-F-L. All right. Now again, if you struggled with any of those, I want you to go back and practice that lesson before you move on to lesson 36. All right. All right, so now let's go ahead and go over lesson 36. So today in part A, we're going to be going over words that have the "erf" ending and the "erv" ending. So the way we write words with "erf" and "erv" is by using the "FR-B." Okay, so really think of it as you're using the R and the F, and the B is going to be a flag to let you know that you're actually reading it backwards, as in "erf" or "erv." So let me read these instructions to you. For a word which ends in "erf" or "erv, write it as FR-B. The final B is a signal that the F and the R should be reversed when reading the word. For example, serve would be read as SE, FR-B, serve, serve. And you're going to read it as SE, serve. Okay, so that B is just letting you know that you're actually reading it up from the bottom to the top, serve. Okay, and don't get that confused with sever. Sever would be SE-FR. I have a lot of students that will ask me, well, isn't that what we use the final FR for? But that's for words that have the ver sound or FR sound, okay? So don't get those mixed up. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples right now. For example, nerve would be written as N-E-F-R-B, nerve. Never would be written as N-E-F-R. So that's the difference between never and nerve. Another one would be tougher. Tougher is written T-U-F-R, and turf would be T-U-F-R-B. Okay, another word, good example, would be suffer, S-U-F-R, as opposed to surf, S-U-F-R-B. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. All right. All right, so let's look at our handout. We'll go over some of those words. First one is serve, S-E-F-R-B. And again, we talked about that as opposed to sever, S-E-F-R. Number two, never, N-E-F-R-B, never. Oh, I'm sorry, nerve. Nerve is going to be N-E-F-R-B as opposed to never, N-E-F-R. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Then we have turf, T-U-F-R-B, as opposed to tougher, T-U-F-R. Okay, so if you want to, write a little note above those. Write a note above serve, write sever, S-E-F-R. Above nerve, write never, N-E-F-R. Turf, above that, write tougher, T-U-F-R. Second line, surf, right above that, write suffer, S-U-F-R, as opposed to surf, S-U-F-R-B. Okay, so you want to make sure and write a little note above there so you don't get those confused. Okay, I think the rest of these we can't really give an example, but we're still going to use, our new rule, the F-R-B. Okay, so we have barf, B-A-F-R-B, barf. I guess if you just wrote it with the final F-R, it'd be baffer. So it wouldn't make sense. Dwarf, D-W-A-F-R-B, dwarf. Wharf, W-H-A-F-R-B, wharf. Carve, K-A-F-R-B, carve. Scarf, S-K-A-F-R-B, scarf. Verve, initial V-E-F-R-B, verve. Curve, K-U-F-R-B, curve. Swerve, S-W-E-F-R-B. Reserve, R-E, come back for S-E-F-R-B, swerve. Or I'm sorry, reserve. Preserve, P-R-E, come back for S-E-F-R-B in a second stroke. Deserve, D long E, come back for S-E-F-R-B. You want to use the long E so it doesn't look like did he serve. Okay. Conserve, K-O-N, come back for S-E-F-R-B. Starve, S-T-A-F-R-B. varv, V-A-F-R-B. So varv just means a layer of sediment deposited in a body of still water. All right, let's look over at 36.2, their practice sentences. Practicing our new theory principle. And I want you to look at line 1, second sentence over. It says they called it the surf and turf. We're going to want to flag that so that it's capped. Okay? So surf, if you were just to say, I want to go to the surf, you would just write that as S-U-F-R-B. But surf and turf, they're talking about fish and chips, and we want it to be capitalized. We're going to write it as S flag U F-R-B, and we don't have to flag that. It's lowercase turf, T flag U F-R-B, surf and turf. Everything else there from sentence 2 down to 12 look good. You look at line 13, second sentence over. It says, I served on the board of directors. Let's look at directors. We need to write that as, use our break for direct, D-R-E-K, but then we're going to come back for just T-O-R, come back for final Z. The reason why we don't want to write it as T long O-R is because the software would think it's direct tore, like I tore my ligament, so we're going to write it with a short O. So direct, D-R-E-K, come back for T-O-R, short O. Come back for final Z. Right? And again, everything else from line 14 down through 16 looks good. And 36.2, practice sentences continue on the next page. Those all look really good, so we don't need to change anything. Okay. 36.3, we've got some punctuation. Initial P, final T for the decimal point. Now, the decimal point is used anytime the speaker says point. So anytime you hear the word point, you're going to use your initial P, final T. That's written with your middle finger on your left hand and your pinky finger on your right hand. All right, so the decimal point is represented by the abbreviation initial P, final T, whether it is said as point or decimal or period or dot. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody reading a report. They may just say period or dot, and you would just write initial P, final T. All right, so in 36.3, you've got some numbers here. You're going to write your numbers just like you would any other number, except wherever you see the decimal point, you're going to use your initial P, final T. You'll get that dot there, or the decimal point, and then continue on with your number. And then go ahead and separate each number with a comma. Okay. You're going to hear decimal points more with like alcohol rates, motions. You're going to hear that a lot. 1538.5, the alcohol rate was such and such, email addresses, and things like that. Okay. Looking on over, 36.4, practice sentences continue. Okay, let's look at line 1. What is 3.1416? About pi there. Is 11.5 correct? So, however you hear it, whether it be point or period, dot, whatever, you're going to use your initial P, final T. Okay, let's look at the last sentence there on the end of that page. Line 6, second sentence, it says, the temperature says 101.5, period. Temperature, you're going to write that as T-E-M, tem, or temp, temperature. We're going to drop the A in the middle. So we're going to write it as per, P-E-R, come back for T, long U-R, temperature. Okay, drop that A in the middle. Remember, we learned to drop the middle vowel in the middle when it doesn't really, it doesn't really fit anywhere, so we're going to just drop that A, and you're still going to have a readable outline. Temperature. Okay. All right. Looking over at 36.5, we've got some abbreviations, which are states. You're only going to learn some of the states today because obviously there are several states. So we're going to start with A and work our way through L, and then we'll pick up the more of the states in the next lesson, 37. And we're going to start today with A through L. The first one is Alabama. If you notice, each state is written twice. So each state has one syllable brief, but it's hit twice. So these are the only briefs that we hit twice, okay? So if you notice, Alabama is written as bam, bam. So you're going to write bam, bam twice, bam, bam. You don't want to take your time in between each one because you don't want the software to think you're writing just bam. You know, if you take your time in between each stroke, then it might think that it's the word bam. So make sure you strike bam, bam. Okay, second state is Alaska. Las, L-A-S, L-A-S, las. Okay, line 2, Arizona. A-R-Z, A-R-Z, ours. Okay, then we have Arkansas. Ark, A-R-K, A-R-K, ark. California. Cal, K-A-L, Cal. Then we have Colorado. Call, K-O-L, K-O-L. Then we have Connecticut. Cun. Delaware. Del. Florida. Floor, even though it is a short O. Georgia. Gaga. Kind of a funny one. So initial G-A, initial G-A. Gaga for Georgia. Hawaii. H-A-U, H-A-U. How. Idaho. Long I-D, long I-D. Again, you want to strike eyed, one right after the other. You don't want your software to think it's the contraction eyed, as in I'd like to go. Line 7, Illinois, ill. Then we have Indiana, end. Iowa, wa. Again, that's another tricky one. W-A, wa. Kansas, cans. Kentucky, kin. Louisiana, lu, long U. Okay. 36.6 are practice sentences using our new briefs, our new state briefs. And again, lines 1 through 4 all look good. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about line 4, second sentence over. It says the Royal Gorge is in Colorado. Gorge is one stroke, so we need to flag it because gorge is capitalized. So we're going to write that as initial G, long O with the flag, R, final J, gorge, because it has a final J sound, so we use the J. And we're going to flag it. The Royal Gorge is in Colorado. Line 5, Key West is in Florida. Notice that Key and West is capitalized. They're one stroke, so we need to flag it. Key, K, long E with the flag. West, W, flag, E, F, T. Okay, Key West. Now, if I were to say I need to go get my key, of course I would not flag that because it wouldn't be capitalized. Again, line 7, second sentence over. Kansas is the sunflower state. So state is capitalized in this sentence. So we're going to write it as S-T, long A with the flag T. Okay, flag to cap. All right. And then in line 8, second sentence over, we live in New Orleans, comma, Louisiana. You want to make sure and strike your comma there before Louisiana. And again, New Orleans, new. You want to write it as N-U with the flag. Okay, New Orleans. Let's see, Dover. Let's look at line 9. Dover. D, long O with the flag, final F-er. Dover is in the state of Delaware. Right. Moving on over to 36.7, we've got some briefs. Got some regular briefs here. Let's look at those. Number 1, material. Material is written as T-E-R-L, material. Then we have perhaps, P-R-A-P-S, perhaps. Line 2, concern, K-E-R-N, kern. Apartment, P-A-R-M-T, apartment. Event, long E-N-T. Eventually, long E-N-T. Come back for L-A-E, eventually. Line 4, become, initial B, final K. Became, B, long A, final M, BAME. Program, P-R-A-M. Then we have and a half. She is 2 and a half. So we have a brief for and a half. It's N-A-F, NAF. Line 6, problem, P-R-O-B. Probable, P-R-O-B-L. Then we have depth, initial D, final G-T. Width, initial W, final G-T. Length, initial L, final G-T. Strength, S-T-R, final G-T. Then line 9, social security, initial S, final S. Solemnly state, and that is written as S-O-S. When the oath used to be given, it used to be given as, do you solemnly swear? You don't really hear that very often anymore. If you do, you can still use the brief, but you have to flag it, S-O-S with the flag. Now, solemnly state is what they normally give. They normally recite with the oath. So you want to write that as S-O-S. Okay. All right. Those are our briefs. We have quite a few, so I really recommend that you practice those quite a bit before you start the homework. Okay. Moving on over to 36.8, we've got a brief drill. Make sure you separate each of those with a comma. Okay. Looking on over, 36.9, our practice sentences. And let's look at line 6, first sentence. The whole thing is problematic. We have a brief for problem, which is P-R-O-B, but this word is problematic. So then you're just going to come back for A-T, come back for I-K. Problem at it. Okay. All right. Everything else there looks good. You know what? Let's go up to line 2. Second sentence over. It says he is a computer programmer. We have a brief for program, P-R-A-M, and then you just add the E-R for programmer. Okay. Next, the next page over, 36.9, practice sentences continue. And I want to talk about the name Dawn as opposed to do not. And that's going to be in line 17, first sentence. It says, do not concern yourselves with this problem. You can phrase, and I want you to phrase do not, D-O-N. Because if you get the name Dawn, as in the boy, you would flag it, D-flag-O-N. And then Dawn, as in the girl, that would be spelled D-A-W-N. So you're going to write that as D-A-flag-U-N, Dawn. So you either way you're covered. So that way you can phrase do not. So make sure you underline that. It comes up quite a bit, so you want to be able to phrase that. And everything else there looks good. Right. Looking on over, 36.10. These are consonant compounds. We only have one today to focus on, and it's the initial SKR. I found that to be one of the more challenging consonant compounds when I was in theory. So I really recommend that you practice that. Just because you're using your pinky, ring finger, and your index finger on your left hand, and sometimes it's easy to throw in that W or maybe leave out the K and add the W. So I really want you to practice a little extra with those, okay? All right, so let's look at some of your consonant compounds. We have screw, which is a long U. Scratch, you're using your final FP for the CH. Scrap, scrape, long A. Scrip, scroll, long O. Scrimp, let's look at scrimp. SKRIFPL for the MP. Remember, our final MP is the FPL. Okay, script, scream, there's our AE reversal. Screech, long E. Scripture. So that one's going to be written as SKRIP. Come back for TUR or T long UR. Either one works. Kind of like picture, mixture. Okay, then we have scram, scrabble. We need to flag Scrabble because it's capitalized. SKRA with the flag, final BL. Scrabble. Screen, long E. Scrawl, there's our broad A. Scrawny, SKRAUN. Come back for AE, scrawny. Scribble, scruffy, SKRUF. Come back for AE, scruffy. Scrappy, scraper, that's a long A. Scrotum, a long O. Scrubby, scry, long I. Scrum, scrub, scrim, scrod. That has a broad A sound, but it's spelled with an O, so we're going to keep it with an O. Scree, long E. Screek, there's our AE reversal. Screwy, now that's going to be written with a U, long U. SKR, long U. Come back for AE, screwy. Scruff, scribe, long I. Screed, long E. Scribe, long I. Scrooge, that's going to be written with our AO because of the OO spelling. SKRAO, final J. Scrooge, and we're writing with the J because it has the J sound. And Scrooge, SKRAO, FP for the CH. Again, it's spelled OO, so we're going to use the AO to reflect that. Okay. All right. Looking on over at 36.11, practice sentences that focus on these consonant compounds. And don't forget to flag Scrabble. If you have to, write a little flag above it. And there's not a whole lot here that I see that I would need to cover. Everything is real self-explanatory. Okay. All right. So that pretty much sums up lesson 36. So again, I really want you to focus on 36.1. Really want you to get those words down, the ERF and the ERV. Don't get them mixed up with the EFR words, okay? Really practice those, as well as all of your briefs. It's not a real long chapter, but there are several briefs between all the states and all of your briefs. So really practice those before you actually attempt to do the homework assignment. Okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and move right into our Q&A. Let's go ahead and move into the Q&A. Okay. All right, so before we get started with the Q&A, I am going to pick it up a little bit today. And as you're getting closer to getting into speeds, You are going to hear solemnly state, which is one of your new briefs, SOS. But I do want to let you know that, you are going to have a little bit of colloquy because the court's going to start out. And as you can see, you can print this out yourself and see it. There is going to be a part where the court starts and then, the plaintiff starts, but then the court jumps back in and kind of cuts them off. I'm going to explain to you how you would actually transcribe that if it were a test. So we're going to go over that after I give you the actual verbal part of the Q&A. Okay, I'll go over that after we're completely done with that. Okay, so for now, let's go ahead and I will dictate it to you. I want you to practice this. Okay. All right, and anytime that anybody gets interrupted, remember to use your OE, and you automatically get dashes. If you don't have time, it's okay. If it were a test, you would go into the edit mode and you would add your dashes. It would be clear that you got cut off because they don't get to finish their sentence. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and just know we're going to start with the court. Okay, and let's see here. Make sure and just know that plaintiff will be questioning, even though defense does jump in. Okay, all right. And then I'm going to explain to you after the Q&A how you would actually transcribe this. Okay, so just sit tight. I'm going to explain it. So let me just take a look here. Don't worry about ending punctuation or internal. If that were a test, you would add all the internal later on. So let's see, anything else? No, if you come up with, if I give you a proper name, just write it phonetically. And if it were a test, I would give you the proper name afterwards. Okay. All right, hold on. Let's see. I want to make sure. And don't ever let any proper names throw you. Okay, you just know that if you write a proper name, such as Riverside, you're going to hear Riverside. Don't ever let that throw you off. Okay, if you hear a proper name, you're writing it phonetically and you're just going to know that it's going to be given in the word list if it's not spelled in the transcript. All right, so let's go ahead and start. All right, so we're going to start with the court. Okay, he's going to be giving the oath. Here we go, ready? You do solemnly state the testimony you are about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. I do. You may proceed. May I inquire? You may. Miss Smith, just a moment, please. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Sandy Smith. SMITH. All right. Thank you. Proceed, Mr. Chambers. All right. Miss Smith, where do you currently live? (1892) Spring Drive in Riverside. Did you live at that address in July 2018? Yes, sir. Your Honor, I am having a difficult time hearing the witness. Miss Smith, I know it is tough, but you have got to keep your voice up a little bit. It is hard to hear in this courtroom. Okay? Yes, Your Honor. All right. Now, were you living alone at that Spring Drive address in July of 2018? No, I was living with Robert Kane. Do you see Robert Kane present in the courtroom today? Yes, I do. Okay, so I did pick it up a little bit because you are getting closer to reaching speed. So if you thought that was fast, I want you to go back and practice it until it no longer seems fast to you. That was not, 60. So I want you to get used to that. There was definitely more uh, changes between the speakers, and you need to get used to that. So one thing I want you to do is take a look at how everything is transcribed on this sheet that you printed out. And if you notice, the court gives the swears in the witness. The witness says, I do. The court says, you may proceed. So the plaintiff attorney goes ahead and starts, asks, may I inquire? The court says, you may. So then Mr. Chambers starts in and says, Miss Smith. And if you notice, my voice kind of trailed off. They give you a little indication that he gets cut off. So if you have time, you're going to strike your OE, OE. If you don't, that's okay. If that were a test, you would throw that in when you're transcribing your test. And then the court comes in and cuts him off and says, just a moment, please. So if you notice that the court is talking to the attorney and says, just a moment, please. Now the next line, now he's addressing the witness and says, please state your name and spell your name or last name for the record. Notice that is on a different line because he's speaking to two different people. The first line, he's talking to the attorney. Second line, he's talking to the witness, saying, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. So notice that the second line, it's indented twice, and that's because you want to reflect that he is now speaking to somebody else. So you really want it to stand out. That's why it's indented twice. Okay. So the witness spells her name. Okay. And then the court says, all right, thank you. Again, the court's talking to the witness saying, thank you. Now, the next line, notice it's indented twice, and that's because he's now talking to the plaintiff attorney saying, proceed, Mr. Chambers. And then Mr. Chambers goes right into questioning. So you have to re-identify him with a byline. Now, if you didn't strike your byline, your SNU question, let's say you just struck SNU without striking the question, it's okay. You would make sure and add that as a byline. But always strike SNU to identify what attorney is coming in again. You never want to assume, because you never know when the other attorney is going to decide to question. Okay, so again, now he's back into questioning again. And then if you notice down a little further down, defense jumps in and says, Your Honor, I can't hear the witness. So again, you want to make sure and identify him as if Peltz. And then if that were a test, you're going to have the names of the attorneys, and you're going to change that to Mr. Dugo. The court comes in and talks to the witness. Miss Smith, I know it's tough, but you have to speak up. Okay, and then the witness comes in and is talking to the court, so you're going to identify him as the witness. And then again, you have to re-identify plaintiff because he was interrupted, but he's still speaking. Okay, now look down at the very bottom, notice that courtroom is one word. Okay, it's not two words, it's one word. And up at the top, when the court gives, when the court signs the witness in or swears the witness in, notice that it says before this court, and that court is capitalized. And at the end there, so help you God, God is capitalized. Okay, so really study these handouts that I give you. It will really help once you get into speeds and you're actually doing a test on your own. Save all of these, and you can always go back and refer to them, whether it be transcribing, knowing how to transcribe a test, or if you have any questions and you're not really sure, like, oh, after all right, is there a comma there, a period? It just kind of helps to refer to these. There's a period after all right, okay, and so on. All right, so make sure you keep those. Again, if that was hard for you to keep up, then I want you to do it again until you feel like you've really got it down and you're not struggling to keep up. Okay, and it's going to be challenging at first, but you'll be surprised. The more you practice, the faster you're going to get it. And then all of a sudden one day it's just going to click and you're going to notice, wow, I'm getting it. So don't ever get discouraged. Okay, so that is the end of lesson 36. I will see you in the read back portion of the class. Have a great day.